Welcome to the Power of the W podcast, a space where we inspire, educate, and celebrate the incredible strength and resilience of women from all walks of life. In each episode, we'll dive into the stories, experiences, and insights of amazing women who are making their mark in the world. From personal development and career success to health, wellness, and entrepreneurship and beyond, we're here to uplift, empower, and fuel your journey to greatness. So get ready to embrace the power of the W. Hello, everyone, and thank you for listening to our first ever episode on our new podcast, The Power of the W. We are recording from YWCA Studios, so thank you for letting us use your studio. I'm your host, Jenna Panacucci, and I'm the Director of Marketing and Communications at the YWCA QC. For those of you who do not know about the YWCA, we are located in downtown Rock Island, Illinois, and for over 100 years, we've been empowering women and families in our community with the services and programs that we provide. The W in our name is more than a letter in the YWCA acronym. It's our whole purpose. So we wanted to create a podcast where we can hopefully inspire, educate, and just celebrate women from all walks of life. We have a lot of amazing women in our community, and we want to share their stories. So when we were planning out this podcast and thinking about our guest list, it was a no-brainer that our first guest had to be the YWCA Quad Cities President and CEO, Julie Larson. So Julie, thank you for joining us.
Thank you for having me here today.
Yeah.
This is exciting.
Yeah. So one of the things I think is amazing is you are one of the longest serving nonprofit CEOs in the Quad Cities. I think your journey to the nonprofit is pretty interesting. So could you talk about that a little bit? Because I think was it a corporation you worked for first?
I worked for SmithKline Beecham. Yes. So I graduated from college and I had it in my mind that I wanted to work in pharmaceutical clinical sales. My mother worked in a doctor's office, so I got to see the work that they did, and I don't know why I thought that was interesting. So that was where I started. My territory, I drove about 1,000 miles a week, but it was fun. You know, I would go to the doctor's offices, sell our products, our clinical lab products, and I had to read the sheets and learn about like H. pylori and hepatitis B, and I don't know why. I thought that was really interesting at the time. So I did that for a few years, and then we had our first child, Haley. And my mother would watch her, and I'd hear about how she rolled over and how she started to crawl and did, the first steps.
You were missing those moments.
Yeah. And I thought, this probably isn't the best job for me. I mean, it's good when you just graduate from college, you're married and don't have children.
Yeah.
But so then I ended up taking a job in the Quad Cities. Some people might know the name. It was Preference Health Plans. It was actually owned by Trinity, Genesis, and Illini. And so that was a really, really cool job. I got to work with the CEOs at the hospitals and the CFOs. And but then what happened was Genesis and Illini decided to merge together. So there went the PPO. And what I actually did was take a year off because I was having child number 3. And you have 2 hands, I found, but when you have that third one,
it changes.
It changes.
You're outnumbered.
It is. So I stayed home for just about a year, and I will tell you, I went stir crazy. And I give, kudos to the mothers who can stay home with their children. I mean, I have a lot of respect for that. It's probably the hardest job you can do.
Oh, for sure.
Just like our daycare employees, I couldn't do that. Yeah. So I got stir crazy and actually called up Berlinda Tyler Jameson and said, hey, I wondered, can you tell me of any volunteer opportunities? I want to get out of the house. And she said, you know what? I've got the place for you. It's the YWCA. And you can actually bring your kids there to board meetings. And I thought, well, this is perfect for me. So I went to my first board meeting when Hunter was like 6 weeks old. And it was pass the baby around, which was great. My kids played in the gym.
Yeah.
And so I served on the board for a while. And then I was the vice president and then president. And then the CEO at the time said, hey, would you want to work 1 day a week, just part-time, doing marketing, because I'd already been doing a lot of the financials and what have you. So I did, and what started as 1 day a week changed to 2 to 3 to full-time.
Yeah. So what made you want to keep doing that? Because nonprofit is very different. I mean, nonprofit's its own little world.
It is.
Yeah.
It is. I like a challenge. Like, I think if things are, I don't like it to be the same thing every single day. And boy, I found the right place, when I started at the Y. When I started, our budget was $300,000. And, strategically, I looked at the Y and our daycare, and we only served ages 2 to 5.
Yeah.
So you have a 3-year-old and you decide to have a baby, what are you going to do? You're going to have to leave the Y and go somewhere else. So actually, when I had our 4th child, Dalton, and I was in the hospital, we got approved for our license for DCS from DCFS for infants and toddlers. Yeah. And so he was actually the first baby in the infant program at
oh
the
my gosh,
YWCA.
I did not know that.
Yeah, isn't that exciting?
Yeah.
and so and then it was just kind of evolved from there. We added additional classrooms and expanded from, I think we had a capacity of 20 to 130 in that. But I like that opportunity. It's kind of like Pandora's box. What can it be?
Yeah. Yeah.
What can it evolve into?
Right. So I think for a lot of people, when you're at the same job for so many years, or you're doing the same career for so many years, you obviously get comfortable. That's what you know. And for a lot of people, like, taking the risk of changing careers or trying something new is a little bit scary. Yeah. So, I mean, was that hard for you to make a career change or not?
I probably not, because I can't really say that there was anything thrilling about the corporate world when I worked in it. That was just that job per se. But, I felt comfortable at the Y. I mean, obviously having 6 kids, family's important to me, and that's what I wanted to bring to the YWCA, to make sure that it's a holistic approach, that we serve the entire family. And so, it just kind of felt home to me. And so what's really funny is when I was little, we would go into the cafeteria at the Y and eat lunch on Sundays after church. And I remember going there with my grandparents, and I actually have a picture of me and my mom and my brother in matching outfits that my mother made in front of the YWCA, and I had to have been 2 years old at the time. So,
I love that.
It just kind of, I feel like when I walked in, like, I knew that was the place for me. And I didn't really know about all that we used to go there to the cafeteria until my mom told me about it. And then I'm like, okay, I kind of remember that. So it's just, and it's fun hearing from people my age, I would say, hey, I learned how to swim at the YWCA. Mm-hmm. And, it's nice to know that we've had that impact for many years on the community. Yeah.
And, I think, like, if you wouldn't have even reached out or, like, looked into that opportunity, there's a whole nother world that you wouldn't have been exposed to, that you found out that you ended up loving, I guess.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. I know. And it's, nonprofit is its own beast. It's a tough industry to be in. We have to vie for every dollar that we get. And, but again, we create unique opportunities. And I think that at the Y, that's one thing that we do really good. We find gaps in services, and our programs complete those gaps. And we don't try to duplicate existing programs. So it's kind of like it's like a drawing. You can draw whatever you want if it's viable.
Yeah. I guess what advice would you give to other women out here who maybe are like, do I change careers, or I am a stay-at-home mom, but maybe I want to get back out into the. I mean, like, what advice do you have for them? Because it is tough to kind of figure out, what fits best for you.
Right. Well, I think finding out where your happy place is. Again, like I said, I give a lot of the mothers staying home with their children credit, but sometimes you need that socialization and that, and what are. Explore what the career opportunities are, and you have to love what you do. And that's why, like, when I walk into the Y every day, I might not look like it when I might not have a cheery face on, but, I love what I do, and that's not work. It's a, passion of mine. just, making a difference in the community. And I think that's what you have to really look at deep down inside, what would make me happy? What are my career interests? How could, an organization benefit from my skills, my expertise, and that. And I like to say to people, too, about the YWCA, what would the community look like if we didn't exist? So, what are the talents that you could bring to an organization that they don't have and that really they shouldn't be doing without, something like that.
Yeah, that's a great way to look at it, too. I'm sure, like, throughout your career, you've probably encountered situations where you've had to navigate male-dominated spaces or the so-called, like, good old boys club. How have you handled those moments, and what advice do you have for women who might be like facing some similar challenges?
And that's a tough one. We built a new facility and just, moved in last June, but that was like a 5-year project. And, I think construction, that is more of a man's world. And so there were a lot of instances where I sat there and thought, if I was a man, this would not be happening. And so when I first started the process, I brought somebody with me, and, because I just felt like I needed that backup. And then it was about 9 months into it, and I thought, you know what, Julie, put your big girl pants on, and you can do this by yourself.
Oh, that's surprising to me that you even brought someone, because, knowing you, I would have been like, yeah.
Well, and I think that's the issue with women is that we get perceived, we get the B word, if we act like we're tough and we're strong. Yeah. There was one instance when one of the guys said to me, well, they're scared of you. And I said, well, why? I said, I've never cursed at them. I've never raised my voice. I've never been rude. And he just said, well, you're just kind of a force in that. And I said, well, is that good or is that bad?
Yeah.
But it's like, I think we have to act differently. We have to be very businesslike. And it's like my favorite artist is Gwen Stefani. And I'm Just a Girl, that song, if you listen to it, pretty and petite. That's what we're supposed to be. Yeah. We're not supposed to know anything about, maybe the construction industry or whatever it is. And we don't know what we're talking about. But, if you educate yourself and read between the lines, you can learn a lot. So I would just say stay strong, don't use somebody else as a clutch, be yourself. And there's a lot of us women who are in the same position and reach out to somebody else for some support if you need it and some guidance and that. But I had a lot of really strong women that had my back through the whole process, as I still do. Yeah. And that's what makes the difference.
Yeah. And I think like hearing that will help women, but also, I feel like the more women that like stand up for themselves and are strong, like we're providing an example of like, no, women are like this, we're not this image that people try to put us in, I guess.
Right. And with that, empower other women, uplift them, help and support them. And I think that's important. And I was just raised, my dad, this is a side note, but when I was little, he said, you're going to go to college and you're going to do this and you're going to be the Henry County pork queen. So long story short, I did go on to be that. But my point is...
Is there a picture?
There is a picture of me with my pigskin jacket on, a sweater with a pig on it, and I'm holding a pig on a bale of hay. So I'll have to get you that picture. Yeah. But my parents instilled that in me that I could do whatever I wanted to, and I said something once and they said, well, you could be president if you wanted to. I don't want to do that. President of the Y is good enough for me. But I guess my point is that, too, with my husband, he doesn't ever say to me, oh, you can't do that. Well, maybe within the construction industry that he's in, but you know what I mean? It's, I'm surrounded by people that really uplift me. So that would be my advice to other women is that, help other women out along the way. Yeah.
That kind of leads into my next thing, because one of the things I've learned about you is you don't take no for an answer. If someone says, oh, you can't do that, or that's not going to happen, you're like, watch me, and you get it done. And I mean, our new facility is a perfect example. So that was my question, was like, where does that come from? Have you always been like that?
Yeah, I mean, I kind of set goals and I want to achieve them and that. I'm not crazy. A marathon's probably out of my reach, so don't tell me I can't do it, because I probably, maybe in the senior Olympics, I could do it somewhere like that. But, I've always been like that. When I went to college, I picked out, I want to go to a Big Ten college, and what are the requirements to get in, and I had to take some extra credits from Blackhawk to get in, and I ended up getting into Purdue, which is where I wanted to go, and that. But I've always been kind of motivated to. I don't. It probably from my upbringing. I had great parents, great grandparents that had believed in me, and I think that's something very important to have those type of people around you. And I think at the Y, for example, the place to be, the Empowerment Center clients, our childcare clients, I think that's what staff at the YWCA do for them. We help uplift them, we empower them, and empowerment means something different to everyone. Right. So I think that's something that I hope that I have helped instill in our staff, and that
I think it just takes that little bit of like uplifting or even just like a little confidence boost, and that really can go a long way for someone. Right
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it's just and I had this poster in my room that said anything you can conceive or and believe you can achieve, and I used to like read that to myself, so I've always been into that self-motivation stuff, and it kind of gets in your head a little bit, so.
Well, I'm sure that you have like passed this down to your kids though too.
I do believe that. I do believe that, my grandma, she passed away just shy of her 104th birthday, and she was a very strong woman, and I got a lot of that from her. I got it from my mom. But yes, my daughters are very strong women, and I'm very proud of that. So,
So, speaking of kids, you're a mother to 6, which, I mean, being a mom is a full-time job in itself. You're leading a thriving nonprofit. Do you believe it's truly possible for women to have it all? And if so, how has that shaped your journey?
I do believe it is. I mean, it does take sacrifices. Having 6 kids, I didn't get to go to every basketball game or baseball game. And it's hard because, you're running this nonprofit, so you're at the top. I always say it's lonely at the top. And so there's certain things that need to be done, and you have to make choices. So that's kind of been difficult. But my kids know at the end of the day that I'm always there for them no matter what. So I do think it does take some sacrifice, depending upon what type of a position you're in. If you're in a 9-to-5 job and you get to go home at the end of the day, maybe it would be different. But, I'm getting calls at, all hours of the day. Not every day. Right. But, so I do. I think it just is what's important to, each individual on that. And again, everybody's different. So we all have different aspirations, and, I'm a little crazy, so.
So I guess it goes back to, just finding what makes you happy and like what fits for that person.
Right. Yeah. And it's hard too, because I can't expect other staff to do some of the things that I do, because last weekend I find my happy place binging Netflix and writing a grant, And so then I was bothering Nicole on Saturday, and then on Easter Sunday, hey, sorry about that, I'm working on this grant. And it's hard for me to step back and recognize that, they need their family time too. But she respected it, so it was all good.
Yeah. You talked a little bit about the balance, work life and home life. Do you have any tips for that? I mean, so I have 3 kids, not near 6, but sometimes it, like you said, that balance is hard. I mean, like, do you have any tips on how to balance that, or any suggestions?
I just think that organization, management of your time is important. I have little lists every day that I want to accomplish, and I force myself to get done with that list before I can leave. And usually that helps, because you can get things done a lot quicker if you don't chit-chat a lot. But, so I just think it's a lot of organization. I'll be invited to a meeting, and they'll email, say, okay, how about this time and this place? Okay, sure. But send a calendar invite, because if it's on my calendar, I'm going to be there.
I've learned that, yes.
I'm going to totally forget about it. So I just think that organization is the key. And then also, just you do have to realize that, someday, heaven forbid when it is, you know, the why is still going to be going when I'm gone, you know, but family is the most important. And so we have to prioritize family over work and that. And when I say that, I missed some games and that, the important moments, you know, I didn't miss.
Yeah, you were there for that.
I was there. You know, my daughter, I had one daughter born with multiple heart defects, and she was born in Peoria. I had a wonderful board of directors who allowed me to have her in my office for about 13, 14 months, you know, which kind of drove me up the wall, but just for health reasons. And, you know, that changed my perspective. And then when my second daughter, Lexi, was in college, she was diagnosed with a brain tumor and had to have a 9.5-hour procedure at Mayo to remove it. And it really put things into perspective for me, you know, that we have to make time for, you know, for our family, you know, otherwise, you know, sometimes they're not going to be here for us to make time for us. So,
and that's such a great point, because I feel like, especially nowadays, like, I really feel like employers really need to be like flexible when it comes to that, because you are possibly missing out on some really good employees that are just choosing not to work because of those challenges. And I think the Y does a really good job with that. I mean, there's been times where, like, my son doesn't have school. Well, guess what, buddy? You got to go to the office with me for a few hours, you know? And, like, everyone is so understanding of that, you know? So I think that makes a world of difference, too.
I think that we want to treat others like we'd want to be treated. And that, you know, in those circumstances, the board and my staff were just amazing. You know, when Lauren came back with me to the office, little baby, our lifeguard came in every day at noon and would say, okay, make it snappy, you got 30 minutes. And she would sit there and rock Lauren to sleep. And then we'd come back and they'd both be asleep on the chair. But, you know, it's really, that's, you know, treating your employees like you'd want to be treated and that. So, you know, it's understanding and that empathy. And I think that's what the Y is all about. I really like to look at the Y as like a family. You know, I think that we're a very close-knit group of people, and it's just like any family. We laugh, we cry, we fight, and we make up, you know?
Julie, anything else any advice or any other message you want to leave with our viewers before we wrap it up?
I no, not really. Just, you know, be true to yourself. You know, I always say to my kids, you be you. You know, respect other people, uplift other people, and, you know, be humble and kind.
All right. Well, thank you, Julie, for joining us. And thank you, everyone, for listening to The Power of the W. Be sure to subscribe to our podcast so you won't miss out on any of our episodes. Thanks for listening to the Power of the W podcast. If you like what you heard, don't forget to hit subscribe, leave a review, and share this episode with a friend. For more updates, follow us on social media or visit our website at www.ywcaqc.org. We'll catch you next time right here on The Power of the W.